our economy is in shambles, and that we're not able to spend any money whatsoever on the social programs that Canadians need and use every single day. Yay! Shockingly, brothers and sisters, it's not true. In fact, the Canadian economy has grown by about 66% in real terms after accounting for inflation in the last 30 years. That means that we are 2/3 richer than our parents' generation, and yet suddenly somehow we are broke. The question becomes, where's the money going? If wages are stagnant, if the government's constantly broke, where's all the money? Well, we can look at the profits of the big 5 banks in 2010 to get an idea of where some of the money went. The largest, Royal Bank of Canada, made a profit, that is a net profit, of $5.2 billion in 2010.
Shame.
Number 2, TD Bank, made a net profit of $4.6 billion in 2010.
Shame.
Number 3, Scotia Bank, for here in Nova Scotia at one point, $4.2 billion in 2010.
Yay.
Number 4, the Bank of Montreal, $2.8 billion in 2010.
Shame.
And apparently the loser among the big banks, if you can call billionaires losers, is CIBC at $2.5 billion in 2010.
Take a collection for them.
So when you add that up, brothers and sisters, it comes to $19.3 billion in 2010 alone that went into bankers' pockets. 23 billion. 19.3. So, okay, that's where some of the money's going. We found out where it's going, but what could we actually spend it on? What could we do with $19.3 billion? Well, okay, let's see. That would create 210,000 jobs across the country, building the infrastructure of tomorrow, improving our hospitals and schools, and building community centers and public facilities across the country. That's what a real government would do, and that's what investment from the banks could do. So, of course, we've identified the problem. Apparently there's no money. We found out there is money. We know where it is. We know what we could spend it on. How do we get there? How do we actually solve this problem? What do we do with that $19.3 billion? Well, brothers and sisters, some folks are going to suggest that we should look at increasing taxes on the banks. I think that's probably a good avenue. Some folks are going to suggest that we look at a variety of taxes on the international level to help solve poverty. Also a great idea. But the real solution, if we want to direct that $19.3 billion to public spending and to social programs that we all need, is to nationalize the banking sector in Canada. Put the banks under public control, put access to credit under public control, and watch the economy grow. The Alberta government currently maintains the only public banking facility in the entire country through ATB Financial. So it's not like this is a new idea. Conservative governments have done it, left-wing governments have done it. If we bring the banks under public control, we'll actually have the money we need for the social programs, infrastructure, and creating jobs of the future. So I'm going to leave you with that. You can either have $19.3 billion in the hands and pockets of bankers every year, or you can have new hospitals, new schools, new community centers, and social programs for all of us that need them when we need them in our local communities. The choice is yours, brothers and sisters.
Nationalize the banks! Nationalize the banks! Nationalize the banks! Nationalize the banks! Nationalize the banks!
Financialpost.com, it was recently quoted.
Hey guys, how's it
that
going?
Avery Sheffield, chief economist of CIBC,
Look at all the police officers.
has downgraded his forecast for Canada's
So many police officers.
In 2008, Forbes reported Cerberus Capital Management, which I'd like to point out, Cerberus is supposed to be the guardian of the gates of hell in Greek mythology. Funny that they would call it capital management company that. Cerberus Capital Management is doing a private sector version of the US government's bank bailout plan, taking some questionable mortgage-related risk off the books of Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce in exchange for a potentially hefty fee. Cerberus will pay CIBC $1 billion in exchange for notes that are backed by the bank's portfolio of US residential mortgage-backed securities. So in light of this, the picture is not so simple, especially since Canada.com reported in 2008 that CIBC was the worst hit Canadian bank and that it's suffering like the banks south of the border. Our next stop is RBC. Do we have time for discussion?
Anyone have any questions about this topic? Anyone have anything to add?
Yeah,
Great, if there's no...
question, if CIBC is supposed to be suffering as bad as the banks down south, then why aren't they collapsed? Like the banks down the south of the border were supposed to without the bailout.
Very strong point, yet here they stand making money, right?
And if they're going out of
$2 billion
business, how come
last
they
year?
had a quarterly profits of billions of dollars last year?
Yeah.
Absolutely. These are all good questions that will be answered with more of our tour.
We are the 99%. We are the 99%. We are the 99%. We are the 99%. So are you. 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 Are the 99%. We are the 99%.
This is the bank I bank with, so this should be interesting. RBC has had some bad press in the last few years. Rabble.ca reported that First Nations chiefs and community representatives from 4 different nations demanded RBC phase out of its tar sands financing and to recognize the right to free, prior, and informed consent for Indigenous communities. Considering RBC's current Blue Water project, which boasts it supports organizations that protect watersheds and ensure access to clean drinking water, financing the tar sands, one of the most environmentally destructive projects in the world, seems completely counterproductive. For example, as many as 5 barrels of water are needed to produce a single barrel of oil. When RBC reported second quarter earnings Friday, the 1.51 billion profit missed Bay Street's expectations by about 10%. The culprit, volatile trading revenue. Maybe this isn't a problem. Maybe Canadian banks didn't need a bailout. Stephen Harper didn't think so. In October of 2008, CBC quoted him as saying, the federal government's $25 billion takeover of bank-held mortgages to ease a growing credit crunch faced by the country's financial institutions is not a bailout. To clarify, $25 billion of taxpayers' money went from the Harper government to top Canadian banks. But Harper said this is not a bailout.
Shame!
What is it then?
Theft!
What is it then?
Theft!
Perhaps we should start referring to the RBC as the Royal Bank of Criminals.
Yeah!
The streets, every banker is a thief. That is why we take the streets. Every banker is a thief. That is why we take the streets. Every banker is a thief. That is why we take the streets. Every banker is a thief. That's why we take the streets. Every banker is a thief. That's why we take the streets. Every banker is a thief. That's why we take the streets.
Hi, my name is Monique and I am an occupier. CanadaUncut.net reports that according to the IMF, the cost of trying to stabilize the Canadian banking system was the 3rd highest among the G7. This is only under the US and the UK. Our lovely Prime Minister, Mr. Harper, claims that the $25 billion that his government has given to the banks was not in fact a bailout, it was a purchase.
Boo!
A purchase of what? A purchase of allegedly risky mortgages, and apparently this was not a one-time event. There is another slated or pending investment for an additional $50 billion. Bringing the total purchase or bailout, whatever word you choose to use, to a total of $75 billion. As a fellow Canadian and a future person that would love to thrive in this wonderful country, this makes me angry and I hope it makes you angry as well.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, Stephen Harper's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Stephen Harper's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Stephen Harper's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Stephen Harper's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Stephen Harper's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Stephen Harper has to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Stephen Harper has to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Stephen Harper's got to go.
Scotia Bank, here we come!
B5O from Scotia Bank, here we come! B5O from Scotia Bank, here we come!
Scotia Bank has come out in the news recently reporting stronger profits than ever. And we're here to bring that into question. Is it fair that this should be the case of affairs under the current economic problems? And we just want to bring up these questions and ask the Scotia Bank, is it right that this should be the state of affairs? Should they be making this much money when there are these many problems? How can they forecast that there was a recession and then report that they have been unaffected? There's a hypocritical statement that's come out recently, and we should ask questions and be critical of these things. We should all look into these things for ourselves. Thank you very much.
Solidarity! Solidarity! Solidarity!
As their profits grow steady, every criminal's rich already!
As their profits grow steady, every criminal's rich already. As their profits grow steady, every criminal's rich already.
Stop the war on the poor, make the rich pay. Stop the war on the poor, make the rich pay.
With no stop the war. Stop the war on the poor, make the rich pay. Go, hey, hey, ho, ho.
TD's got to go, hey, hey. Ho, ho. TD's got to go.
Last stop on our tour before we return to the occupation site. And we have here with us today now who will be speaking about
It's our favorite Mickey Man.
She has a lot to say about this. Here she is.
Political leaders are challenged. Many formed their views and values during the age of Aquarius, but struggle to apply them in the age of austerity. So big questions need to be asked. Tough decisions will need to be made. He went on to say that those in the Occupy movement recognize there is no easy solution and, to their credit, have avoided being captured by particular solutions. But their message is the same. They don't like how the world is turning out. No shit. Sorry. Now, I did a lot of research on TD this week, and I realized the hands of the CEO have changed over the last 10 years, but that does not take away from the fact of everything they have done in the past and everything they're still doing. TD Bank has very deep roots in globalization. It is tied to the World Bank, NAFTA, Citibank, Walmart, and much more. They profit off of the decimation of human health, of environment. I can't remember what else. They're doing so much wrong that people don't even realize. They lend billions and billions towards destructive industries every year, including oil, biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, GMOs,
Forestry.
arms, everything. And they actually ruin a lot of rainforest and boreal forests, Scandinavia, Russia, Canada, and they're supposed to be the environmental bank. So
They're killing the planet.
every bank is killing the planet.
Can't take it anymore. 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 We 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 can't take it anymore.